And now it's on. January 11th, 2015, New Year's workshop. And we'll get started in 5 minutes.
There is room on the front row. There's like lots of room in the front row. There's room in the second row. Room everywhere. I will be standing for a lot of it, so I know that a lot of you have terrible views if I did this all day, but I'll be standing most of the time. So, but there are really lovely front row seats. Like, if you're really ready for the altar call, you sit in the front row, right? You know I'm making a joke, Mary, so.
Ooh, and fan.
Oh, yes, this will be good. You'll like the fan. Yeah, obviously Tessa sat in the spot that is like the kitty who wants to sleep on the radiator all day spot. This is a test. Yeah, I should have told you the fan was over here. You would have been here in a minute.
Seriously.
Did you bring socks?
There's a.
I actually brought my slippers. I just thought it was so sweet.
Yeah, because I do a lot of stuff here and it's got a concrete floor. So the request to take off shoes is not totally fair in the winter. So yes, if anyone's feeling that they've got cold feet in the literal sense, not the metaphorical sense, there are socks in a basket in the back. And if you don't want to walk back there, Peter won't throw you one because he's kind of caught in his corner. We'll start soon. We're going to start it's maybe a little boilerplate in the beginning, you know? So yes, it is the short answer.
There's no secret bathrooms in this room, right?
No, you got to go outside. Please, no one shout fire unless there really is a fire, okay? Okay. Give it 2 more minutes. Now we'll get started. You got the link? Right, the YouTube link.
Oh, phone, turn off our phones.
That would be a good thing. Hey, Miriam. There's room up front for anyone who's like thinking there's an impenetrable crowd up here. And they're mostly nice people.
Okay, so Rainbow is late, and N is good.
Oh, I've got someone tracking my Facebook event for me. Yay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I have Vera and Ursula on the way.
Okay.
And Sumi should be.
I assume Rainbow and Snow are siblings. Rainbow Chen? No, these are not friends of yours. Never mind.
Rainbow is a friend of mine.
And Snow?
Snow's not a friend of mine.
Okay, because we have a Snow Chen and a Rainbow Chen. Yeah.
Rainbow.
We have a Robin Rice and a Robin Rice book.
I was looking forward to this, can't make it after all.
Oh, it was hell that one night. I did the family constellations. We had 2 constellations, and one name was Christine, and the other was Christina.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I got it wrong constantly, all night long.
Like the word E and an A.
No matter how often I went, that's the A person, that's the E person. Okay, let's start gathering together. We're gonna get started soon. People are gonna keep filtering in for the first 10 minutes or so, but I want to reward all of you who came on time. Yay. And there are 4 seats up front, just for those of you who are feeling the need for elbow space. There's more room up here than you think. Oh, you saving spots for them? Oh, okay. You could have said that. That's all right. These spots are taken, but not those.
Well, if they want them, I don't know. There's like this and all of these seats. I know you like.
Why don't you write a name tag for her too? 'Cause I think you're her friend.
Thank you.
Your name tag is your ticket. Please do keep it so that obviously this is free. But I have asked Peter to kind of keep track of people who have signed in. So if you're going out to the restroom and back and stuff like that, it just lets us know who signed in and who has not. So come on in, get a name tag, take off your shoes, find yourself a spot. We've got a couple of front row seats over here. Oh, sure, turn off your phones, whatever. If they ring, turn them off then. Unless you have a really rude ringtone.
Or you're in the middle of a game.
I was in a class once with a guy who he had some issues. We'll just say that, and his ringtone was like the most wild, terrifying siren sound, and so every once in a while we'd go off in the classroom and like for a half hour we'd all be kind of like, can you like turn that off for the class? That would be really great. But if you have a charming ringtone. So I'll tell you my favorite I have a ringtone story. I'll tell you the ringtone story and we'll get started. So I was on vacation, beautiful spot. I was drinking a margarita at the Ore, looking over Great Salt Pond in Rhode Island. And I was listening to these 2 guys who were talking. They were clearly friends. They knew each other. They were having a few drinks. And after a while, I realized they were 2 Roman Catholic priests on vacation. Because they were dishing their bishop and stuff like that. Which was amusing enough. But then the guy's phone rang. And I hope you'll all get this joke. If you don't, I'll explain it. But the ringtone was Tubular Bells from The Exorcist. I thought, that's a cool priest. I want to get to know him. Hi, everybody. Hello. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. So I'm Leslie Nips. Most of you know me pretty well, but there are a lot of people I've never met before. You got referred by somebody else, or you've been on the meetup 3 years and you finally have come to this event. I'm a change work practitioner and I'm a business coach. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that later, but not so much now. The other thing that's interesting, given the joke I just made, is that I'm an Episcopal priest. I don't do this a ton these days. I still supply from time to time. But it is interesting, given that we're looking into the coming year. As I look at the coming year, it's the 20th anniversary of my ordination, which I don't even know how that happened. So that's kind of on my mind. You may have anniversaries in 2015 that you're thinking about of some sort or another. And I really love doing these kinds of workshops. We've got a very full group today. This is awesome. You might say, oh, well, that's because it's free, which is true to a certain extent, but it's not just about that. We've all been to, who here has put on a free event that nobody's come to? Yeah. And who here is like paid a few $1,000s for something and it was packed, right? Yeah, so it's not about the price tag on things. There seems to be really lovely energy about this. So I'm really glad you're here to participate in it. And we still got people coming in, that's all right. I'm mostly doing boilerplate. There are 2 spots right up in front for those of you who want that. I want to say a word about this, the computer. It's only looking at me. It may hear some of your comments, so just want to let you know that this is not being distributed. It's only for today for about a half dozen people who don't live in the Bay Area who wanted to participate in some way. So can everyone go, hello, really loud? Hello. Okay, good. Please don't worry about confidentiality when it comes to this. We're all bound by the confidentiality, including the people who are watching. So I'll just make that note now. There will be some sharing. This is not going to be, I hope, I've been surprised in the past, this is not going to be one of your 10 hanky workshops. It's not my plan for today that we're going to be breaking into the biggest pain of your life. And I do those too. If you want to come to those, I do those workshops. That's my hope today. Nonetheless, you may share some things that are confidential with someone else. I want you to feel safe doing that. We all agree to confidentiality. Nod your head. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. So why am I doing this? I had a great, I think I had one of the best and one of the worst years of my life last year. How many of you had years like that? My business done really well, and I'm so grateful. It's been really, really lovely to see that happen. I've had some stuff in my personal life that have been kind of exceptionally heartbreaking, and I'm kind of on the other side of that, for which I'm also grateful and everything that happened around that. And I got to thinking I'm hanging out with more and more entrepreneurs who are into gift economy, more beautiful world. The agreement amongst us is that the world does need a different economy than the one we have. What does it mean to be in business in this economy and have enough money to pay your rent and feel like you have enough, but also have a vision for that alternative economy? It's an interesting thing to sort of play with, and this came out of it. I wanted to make generosity, standing in a position of authoritative abundance, and this is it. So it's truly my gift to you. I am going to be sharing what I do and my events and inviting you to get on my email list and help pay for the rent if you like, but it's truly no strings attached. If you're moved, if for some reason that doesn't feel like what you want to do here, just pay it forward somewhere else. Okay? And that's what's called having a really good life, right? I want to orient you to the space. By the way, those of you in the back who came late, it's okay. We have 2 lovely spots right here. If anyone wants to come over here, and there's a smattering closer, we just ask you to be careful of the computer as you sneak by it. You might want to move your phone for a second, Catherine, just so she doesn't know. There we go. This is the room. We do have water back here. I hope you brought, as in my email, you got your needs met by bringing snacks and water and stuff like that. But there is water here during the break if you need it. And then the bathroom is out the sidewalk and in the main building. So you got to go out in order to use the restroom. And have a break in the middle. So I hope most of you can wait until then. But if you need to, by all means, that's where it is. What are we going to do? In broad outlines, we're going to enter liminal space together. And I'm just going to write up that word. I used it in the publicity for this, and I'll explain it more in a moment. Those of you who are have done any reading about the cultural anthropology of ritual, you know these words, or you may know them anyway. And then we're going to check out where we are right now. We know that we mean that in a larger sense than just locally. We're going to use some exercises to let 2014 teach us. And I really want you to hear this. It's not like go back and figure out what we want to learn from 2014, but imagine 2014 as a teacher What does it want to let us know about? And the same thing with 2015. What do we want to let 2015 teach us? One of the things that business coaches will generally tell you is please don't talk about your modality, only talk about the problem you solve or the service that you offer. This makes good sense, but there's always a bunch of you, I'm one of them, who want to look under the hood. How do you do this thing? I'm curious. So I just want to say a word or two about that for those of you, and the rest of you who aren't interested, just close the hood and you don't need to look at it. Two modalities, mostly neurolinguistic programming and family constellations. They are two beautiful modalities from different parts of the world. Peter, our registrar, is going to sneak in and find his way into the second row without hurting anybody, including himself. NLP comes in very different worlds. Santa Cruz in the 70s, that whole kind of pre-computer age world. And then family constellations is a combination of indigenous knowledge, specifically Zulu, and very European, German family therapy context. But both of them have some very similar overlapping insights. They're really beautiful, powerful modalities, and all I want to say about them is that they, even though they're different toolkits, they've got they have two approaches to an overlapping reality, which is how to gain access to the unconscious of systems. Whether an internal system, me, myself, and I, or an external system like the people in this room, or an organization or a business or a family. Yeah. In NLP, they're called standing anchors of various kinds. And in family constellations, they're called representations or representational perception. That's all I'm going to say about that. But we're going to be using this to explore, what are we mostly up to? Time travel today. We are thinking about time. And just take a second, think about a past self and a future self. And now we got 3 selves. We got ourselves a system. So we're going to be using these modalities to explore ourselves in time. So that's what we're up to. We're going to be mostly doing what's called timeline work. And by the end of the day, you're going to know what that means and a lot of different versions of that. I also just want to add that I'm bringing in a spirituality piece as well, which will be accessible to everybody in the room, of no spirituality, of very specific spiritualities. There'll be room for everybody's experience. A few things I want to say just about process. I'm going to be asking you during the course of the day to think of a word that's emerging from the moment. Don't worry about it. I'm going to instruct you on that later on. But your word may remain the same all day. It may circle and spiral. It may be different all day. All of those are fine. And invite you at some point to write them down, just because these words may be useful meditative touchstones for you leaving here today. Finally, there's going to be a few times for people to, I'm going to invite people to share. Obviously, in a group this large, it's not going to be everybody. And so all I ask you is, if you raise your hand, please stand up loudly enough for everybody in the room to hear, and briefly bring your brief, to the point self to your share, for the sake of our short workshop. So at this point, I want to move into talking a little bit more about this word, liminality, which is a nice nominalization. Anthropologists of ritual talk about this as the in-between space created by rituals. Okay. Most prominently, rites of passage. You know, you went into your bar mitzvah child and came out an adult. That kind of thing. There's a space in the middle. It actually comes from the Latin limen. I have no idea, you Latin speakers, if I pronounced that correctly. Never did really pursue my Latin. Which means threshold, so like in a door. a threshold. You're not outside, you're not inside. And in ritual, what this makes possible is for the normal rules to be suspended. So in a lot of rituals, the officials will be, you know, the hoi polloi will become in charge. Or sometimes they'll make the children the king for the day, kind of thing. The normal rules get, and there's also a lot of mixing between people that don't normally mix together. At any rate, it's a powerful ritual space that allows things to emerge that we wouldn't normally experience as emerging. Come on in, good to have you. This works whether you think of this as a space in which grace can break in. So that's a distinctly metaphysical point of view. Or if you just say that ritually we humans allow something different to emerge. Totally materialist, totally atheist point of view. Works either way. But over and over we've noticed that ritual does make something different. So let's do it. And someone say, Leslie, stop talking. So just take a moment and look around the room, locate yourself here now. You can look up at what's up, you know, what's hanging up here. The people here do such a nice job of decorating their spaces. Notice the people, quality of light coming through these glass things. One day I had a client in here who was Iranian and was able to say, this is Persian, this is all Sufi stuff. I didn't realize it until he said so. He could read it. Yeah. Now, notice the people. And then just really quickly, don't have to do much, can you just please formally say hello to the person to your right, to your left, behind, and in front? Hi. Hi.
I'm Mary.
And what we're going to do now is officially enter liminal space together. Ah! Put on your seatbelts. So I'm going to ring the gong. That's usually a common way of doing that. We're going to have a little bit of silence, and I'm going to say a couple of things in that silence. Okay? And if any of you have a relationship with divinity, go ahead and hook on up in any ways that you like to do that. And if that's not your thing, just bring attention to your breath and to your heart. And notice the energy of everyone who is here in this room. What's going on for you right now? Just notice with curiosity and without judgment, without any need to change it at all. And then quietly allow one word only, to emerge inside your heart. And in a moment, I'll ask everyone here to say that word at the same time. So just allow that word to emerge for you. Or you can choose it, that's fine. Whatever the word is. And then quietly, but loud enough for at least your neighbor to hear, let's all together say this word now. And slowly come back to the room. And as I said, if you want to note that word for yourself, we're going to do something similar to that, sort of punctuated throughout the day. It'll be interesting to see. Does it change? Does it stay the same? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to start out with a few short exercises. These are going to be short to kind of acknowledge, we're mostly going to be hanging out in the space of the unconscious. But the conscious mind gets cranky when we just shove right past it and say, stupid conscious mind, you only, know how to do math. So let's just take a second and acknowledge the conscious mind, if we would, please. I hope you all like writing, because I do have some things to invite you to write. If you don't have paper, you can bum some from somebody else. I also brought scrap paper and pens. If you need scrap paper and pens, please raise your hand. And Daniel, in the back, would you be willing to grab the paper? It's right on the front. It's 3-hole punched. And there are pens there as well. There's a few hands up over there. A couple of pages will probably get you through the day, unless you're a big writer. And all I want you to do is just take a moment, and this is just to download what the conscious mind is doing right now. Go ahead, 2014. Top 3 things that happened in 2014, the very best, and the top bummer things of 2014 for yourself personally. Things you would really prefer not to repeat, what you might call regrets. You don't have to work this too hard. These should come pretty quickly. And then you're going to do the same thing for 2015. Top 3 things you'd like to have happen in 2015. And the top 3 things you'd prefer not to experience. Often in contrast to a recent experience we'd prefer not to repeat. Let's give us a moment for respect our conscious mind, our conscious desires about things. Give you a couple more minutes for that. You're going to be going, that's way too fast. But this is not where the juice of the day is. Just kind of want to give this a chance to be on the record. So the top.
So far in 2015, or what we
No,
want?
what we want. Let's just pretend we're January 1st, right? But the top 3 things that you would really like to happen in 2015. And the top 3 things that are kind of on your mind you would prefer to not experience. I mean, we all assume we prefer not to die, but unless that's heavily on your mind, maybe you had a bad breakup in 2014 and you don't want to do that again. Yeah. When you're done, just look at them with a lot of respect and perhaps a bit of gratitude. I don't want to diminish this. This is all quite important information. It's just not where our attention is mostly going to be today. And we are going to circle back to this at the end. Does anyone need more time? I still see a few more writers. Okay, start to wrap that up. Okay. And then, as I said, put that aside, or whatever you like to do with that. We're going to come back, so don't like bundle it up and throw it away or lose it in the next 3 hours, because we're going to come back to it. So there's one other part of our conscious experience I really want to acknowledge, because it's really important. Because after this, we're going to start leaping more into really focusing on our unconscious experience of 2014. One of the things that a lot of consciousness-related work can do is forget our social context, which is unfortunate because it's kind of where we live. What family constellations work reminds us is where we are located in a context, a lot of it visible and a lot of it invisible. For those of us who are thinking about alternative economies, we're thinking about our actual context. We're not just doing a whole lot of abundance thinking. We're trying to think about what kind of world we want to be in, yeah, and how it affects us. So, and I realized this morning that as I thought about this piece, that I couldn't remember too much of 2014. So I want us to do this together. So just for a moment, because most of what we're going to be doing here is our personal, what do you want personally for yourself? What was personally important about 2014? What's personally important about 2015? Just for a moment, let's just acknowledge what happened in 2014 that affected kind of all of us in the room. Now, I'm going to start off with just kind of the most obvious one, right? Which is Ferguson, right? But together, could we just spend a moment remembering what was happening in the world in 2014 that seemed important? So just shout something out.
The girls in Nigeria.
Yes, the Nigerian girls. Thank you. Very important. What else?
The violence in Mexico.
Okay. What else?
Earthquakes in Netherlands.
Oh, yes, that's a local one. Good, yeah.
Obama losing favor.
Sorry?
You know, it seems like people are becoming really disillusioned, anti-Obama
Okay, okay.
sentiment.
Okay.
Congress.
Obamacare.
There you go.
Yeah, that seems like the last 3 or 4 years.
You don't have to all be negative, right?
No, they don't. Let's include, the great things that happened and the big news.
The benefit of Obamacare.
Yeah. Yeah.
is getting health care this year.
Yes, right. That was a big,
Healthcare this year.
Right.
yeah. Excellent.
Insurance.
Right, that's connected to here.
Yeah, it's connected to there, but since it's local, the
Right.
violence, like the protests in
Right.
Oakland, I heard
Right.
helicopters over my house for
East Bay protests.
Yeah.
Greatest 1989 is an album from Taylor Swift.
Oh, Taylor Swift, sure. She had a big year. Yeah. God, I got tired of hearing about Taylor Swift on NPR. What the hell? In the back. Yes, that was a big deal. That was recent. Uh,
Greatest climate march ever in New York and anti-typhoons.
Yeah, so climate march, as well as what was the meeting? Where was the meeting that was around this?
At the summit and global warming summit.
Where was it? That was not Lima. Where was that? Lima? Okay.
But also continuing typhoons.
Right. So we, what was it the big one in the Philippines? Was that this year? Haiyan?
Yeah,
Okay.
also the 10th anniversary of the big tsunami.
I'm sure if we got into anniversaries, we would start, yeah. What? Yeah, down here. Yes, the things got, the basically the ongoing war between Gaza and Israel, that kind of sparked this year.
World Cup.
Yes, World Cup, as well as what? We had a funny Olympics in Sochi. That was a weird one. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that one. Gay marriage, yeah, kind of, we got over that. Not quite yet, but we're getting there.
Recreational marijuana, woohoo!
Marijuana. But no, this was the year that there seemed to be a tipping point on both those things. Yeah. Right, that's a big one. That's a big one. Flight.
The election?
Closing. Yeah, Congress went Republican this year. Okay, closing, what was I gonna write there? Abortion clinics, thank you.
Snowden.
Okay, I can only go so fast. Because I've already missed one. What was the one after that?
Election.
Right, the elections. Snowden was kind of a little earlier, but okay, we'll go with that. I'm sorry? Ebola.
Yeah.
That was a huge story this year. Yeah. Okay, so we could keep going, right? Let's just stop there. You know, the lovely thing about family constellations is that it invites us to a place where we could have our heart open to this with respect and honor. And then finding where we take on our pieces and where we don't, right? Some of these actually invite us into certain obligations and commitments, and others don't, even though they're important. So I don't want you to answer that. I just want us to feel the field that we're in. I noticed there was one lady in the back who had one that she really wanted to add.
The beheading.
Yeah. The rising of ISIS this year was kind of a big deal. Yeah. Okay.
What a rain.
And increase anti-Semitism.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Okay. And again, we could keep doing this. Okay, so just allow yourself to be open to the parts, because some of these are really going to there's a piece here that's really personal for you. And there are others that are less personal, but you still have feelings about. And others you're like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I didn't catch that piece on the news, right? Which is fine. I wish I hadn't heard about Taylor Swift. My God, it was 2 weeks. That was all I heard. Okay, so just be with that. And then we're not going to be in this space most of the time today. This is why I wanted us to do this. I do a lot of money workshops with people, and there's so much stuff around personal abundance and prosperity, which is all really important, but it's generally done outside of these contexts, and it doesn't work very well, right? What does it mean to be poor or wealthy or whatever in this world? And it's not to say to get all survivor guilty-ish about it, because that's also not useful or helpful. But again, with an open heart and a bow of respect to the whole thing. Okay. So, and with respect I'm going to come back to this, but I'm going to turn this over because I do want you to turn more to your personal self. Our first short timeline exercise. So timelines, if I was up on the ceiling with a camera down on your heads, someone's head right here, there's a timeline. I'm just going to artificially put a timeline through you that goes in this direction. Okay? So for a moment, just imagine behind you is your past, and in front of you is your future. Okay? Just feel yourself, and you're at a really interesting spot on your timeline, which is now. Which is an interesting idea now. So somewhere, can you just, some of you like to close your eyes for this, some of you are your eyes open, it doesn't really matter very much. Can you imagine somewhere out there, just see an image of your future you, a future you. We're going to be mostly focusing at some point on the you who's finishing up 2015. Just see that you out there. Hello, future you. Good to see you. Give them a friendly wave. See them wave back. Hi, past you, he or she says. Right? Oh, I remember January 2015. That was a long time ago. Okay. And then notice way back here, the version of you who's at January 2014. Somewhere back there. And in your mind's eye, can you wave to that past you? You're their future. Oh, isn't that cool? You just go, hello, past me. And we'll go, hello, future you. And then, of course, in between, there are all these, there's an infinitude of selves. This is why we're going to be entering the unconscious of a system, because there's more than one you, or past selves and future selves. How does it feel to look at them and just see them? Do you notice any judgments coming up? It happens. You stupid past me, what were you thinking? Maybe you feel affection. Feel respect. And do you have any impression of how they think or feel about you? Just take a moment and notice the three of you. Future you, the present you, and the past you. Do they like each other? Do they appreciate each other? And if there's some way in which the three of you interrelate that you'd prefer to have different, what might that be? And please notice this, just as you are on this timeline, looking at your future self, looking at your past self, please notice this. For any one of you to have a better experience of life, none of you have to lose or be left behind. When it gets better for one of you, it gets better for all of you. Now, this may be a very new idea for some of you. For some of us, to have it better now means to abandon or betray our past self who had it so difficult. But notice, for it to be better for you, now it's a win-win-win. And if you don't believe me or it's not feeling that way, that's okay. Just hold it out as a possibility to think about. And then come on back. I'd be interested in hearing from just one person at this point. What did you notice about that may have been surprising or different or useful or feels a little weird? Yeah, I invite you to stand up so everyone can hear. Because there's people way back there. Look at that.
When I looked at my past self, I actually felt a lot of like honoring, and it helped me have space to step more out of my story about where I'm not or where I am or all those things. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that was complicated, you know, and I felt really like, yeah, I you know, like I honor you, thank you.
Yeah.
And there was relief from the back way, like, oh yeah, there was change happening. Like, okay.
So your past self gets to have some hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is funny, when we can't feel our past self having any hope, it's really hard for us to have hope. Right? Okay, excellent, thank you. That's exactly the sort of thing I want us to play with. More and more with clients, I'm noticing, I have a technical term for this, and this is part of what I hope I leave you with today, is, I don't know if I'll do it over here. Rapport, this is a little technical, that's an NLP term. That just means kind of getting along with. Rapport with selves over time. Seems to be a big part of healing. And that for a lot of people who are really, really stuck, it's because there's this feeling that for one to do better, a past self has to lose, or someone has to lose. So this is part of, we're going to be like getting past, present, and future selves in alignment about what you want. That's what we're hoping for. And obviously you can do this. I put January 2014, but you could go back to your little kid self, who's probably the version of you who had the hardest time. I mean, just statistically speaking, right? For those of us in this room. For some of us, there's been harder times as adults, but for most of us, it's the little kid years. And it's that one we're most afraid of betraying or leaving behind by having a better life. Okay. And actually, the little kid inside of us is going, will you please have a better time? Please, 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 please. It's what I've been waiting for. Right? Okay. We're going to now do a longer exercise. And this is going to be totally focused on 2014. We're going to start out on 2014. Some of you saw these questions when you came in, because I just wanted them up. So these are just some questions you might be interested in. They don't necessarily have to be the questions you're interested in, but these are just some questions you might ask about 2014 and the exercise we're about to do. What are you especially grateful for in 2014? Okay. What do you want to honor? That's different from necessarily, you could be grateful for something that you want to honor, but you could be like, I really wish that hadn't happened, but I'm still going to honor it as something important. What do you, and this is just my phrase, what do you want to put to bed? Like, I'm really done with crappy jobs, whatever it is. What do you want to put to bed with respect? Okay. What do you want to carry forward? It seems exceptionally important. And what did you learn from 2014? Main learnings. I could have come up with another 20 questions, but those were kind of the ones that seemed most powerful to me.
To write these down?
You don't need to. If you would like, you may, but no, you do not need to write them down. Because you may come up with better questions.
I mean, do you want us to write the answers?
No. I mean, if you want to come up with answers, but no, the process we're about to, thank you for clarifying. the process we're about to do is going to address that. Okay, so we're going to do a different kind of a timeline. This is an adaptation of an NLP technique called God, these guys love their jargon. Called a transderivational search. God help us. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what's called that. Everyone who's in NLP just calls it a TD search and forgets what it means. So basically, but it is a very nifty little technique. It's basically a way to search through a period of time for a set of experiences without having to revert to explicit memory. So those of you in the room may know the difference between explicit memory and implicit memory. Explicit memory is something that you remember explicitly and you label it a memory, right? Implicit memory is most of our memory, and it's the stuff that's unconscious running in the background. It's what tells you how to drive a car. You're not getting in the car thinking, first I have to do the, right? You just kind of do it on automatic, or how to brush your teeth, right? And there are a lot of other more substantial memories and events that are also in there. There's also overlap here. There are things that are both kind of explicit and implicit. We are more interested in the implicit memory because we are really firmly in the space of wanting to allow our subconscious to give us some of the answers to these questions, rather than our conscious mind, although our conscious mind would come up with some really good answers to these questions. So this is the way it works. You're going to use your arm for this. My dominant hand is my right hand. If you're left-handed, you may want to do it on your other arm. You don't need to do this yet. I'll just demonstrate this for you. I'm going to make a timeline on my arm. Okay. For those of you with really bulky sweaters, you might want to roll up your sleeves, but for most of us, it'll be just fine. Up here is the beginning. This is January 2014. And down here somewhere, I don't know if you want to go to your finger or your wrist, wherever, is December 2014. Okay? So we got January, February, March, April, blah, 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 blah. 2014. We're looking at 2014. We're looking at the past. Yippers. So what I'm going to, and I'll walk you through this. This is a walk. If we'd had 15 people in the room, we literally would have been doing this on the ground. But so glad you're all here. So we're going to do this on our arms instead. And so as we go along, I'm going to give you some instructions and be asking you some questions. And you're going to be tempted to, when we're in the January area, to think about, what was I doing in January 2014 that matches this question? Okay? There's nothing wrong with that, but actually what I want to invite you to do is notice as you're going along, oh, I just got really sad. Middle of January, got really sad. Make a note of that. I don't know what that's about. Oh, I just got really excited, and we're now at the beginning of March. That's really interesting. Oh, beginning of March, I got the new job. That's what that was. Okay, and then you go around. Sometimes you'll be able to make matches between your explicit memory and what's going on. And sometimes you're just going to say, February, there was something that was scary, and I'm not quite sure. I'm going to need to sit down and think about that. Okay. Mostly what you're interested in paying attention to is the unconscious parts of you that know how to do this will allow feeling states, memories, and thoughts to emerge in a way that feels kind of spontaneous. That's more of what we're looking for, rather than, oh, she's in February. What the hell happened in February? February was a dull month, sort of thing. Okay? So I'm going to, by the way, as I'm sitting down, people in the back, can you hear me well? Do I get too quiet? When I'm sitting down, you can still hear me? Excellent, okay. Is there anything else I wanted to say about this? So during the course of this, what you're looking for are what I'm just calling, for lack of a better word, big moments. Okay? Big events, big moments. maybe literally related to an event, and maybe more subtle than that. And by the end, you're going to have 3 to 20 of them. The overachievers will have 20. The rest of us will probably end up with 6 to 8. Okay? Remember, there's 12 months, so kind of 1 a month is a pretty good thing. And we're just looking for things to kind of be in the space of these questions. That's all. I'm just kind of creating a space for a set of questions. We're stepping into a field around our experience of 2014. So, and I'm going to do, yes. I would use, you can use whatever arm you like, first off. I would use my dominant hand to do the movement because this is going to take more work. But choose, if it feels better to do this or whatever, just, it doesn't matter, whichever one you want. Okay, so just take a moment. You might close your eyes just to find yourself for a sec. We're all together right now going to step into the field, the unconscious field of 2014. So very gently take your hand and place it up at the top of one of your arms. This is January 1st, 2014. And I see some of you have your arms stretched out. That may get tiring because we're going to do this for about 10 or 15 minutes. So you might lay it on your knee or your lap or something. Just make that comfortable for yourself. And incredible, like it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes to get all the way down to the other end of your hand. So very slowly start to move through January. Very slowly you move your hand in a way that your skin can feel. This is important, that your body can feel it. Not so light that it can't tell. And I'll just occasionally ask some of these questions in January. Don't move into February. What are you especially grateful for? What do you want to honor? What do you want to put to bed? What do you want to carry forward? What did you learn? And just notice what feelings or thoughts or memories are leaping out at you. With total respect. Those of you who really need to note what you're doing as you go along, it is perfectly fine for you to open your eyes briefly and write something down. If something you notice something important and you think, I'm not going to remember this when we get all the way down to December in 10 or 15 minutes. And you'll all do this at slightly different paces, but I will help you move forward. We'll start moving into February of 2014. Super Bowl time, Valentine's Day. Things are really blooming in the Bay Area. Other parts of the country are getting snowstorms. Just notice what arises in your body or in your mind or as a memory in February, if anything. And if you're thinking, can I go faster? Yes, you can. I'm just kind of doing it at a pace that seems about right for the group. If you need to go ahead, by all means do. March, move into March. March, St. Patrick's Day. Just notice what arises as you move through the weeks of March. What seems important here? What are you grateful for? What did you learn? What was scary or difficult? What might have been kind of heartbreaking? Move into April. East Coast is really starting to feel spring a little bit now. What was important? What do you want to honor? What was scary or frightening? Were there places that you felt that you were collapsing? Just anything you're noticing. Just let 2014 teach you about itself to you. And move into May. Mother's Day. What are the highlights, the low moments? What are you noticing? What's emerging? What's coming up from your spirit as you move through May? And then together, let's move into June. Father's Day. What was important? What's arising? What's coming up from your spirit, up from your unconscious, from your heart, as you move through June? And then together, let's move into July. Fourth of July. Summer. Good stuff here at summer. What emerges? What comes through? What do you want to learn? What are you grateful for? go into August. Summer's starting to wrap up here. What comes through your unconscious, your spirit? Low moments and high moments. What wants to be honored about August 2014? And then we go into September. Notice what arises as we move through the month of September. Fall equinox. What comes up in this month? Just a few months ago. That seems important. We'll move into October. World Series. Halloween. What arises in October that seems important to notice and mark? In November, let's move into November. Thanksgiving. Allow things to emerge from your spirit, from your heart, from your unconscious about November. And then finally, December, just a little while ago. What emerges or comes through about December in your heart that seems important? And bring the timeline to an end. Some of you may want to write for a moment or two. I want to give you that opportunity. Some of you will have very tender, painful things you've been noticing. Others of you will have like some of the best moments of your whole life up until now in 2014. I said this was not a 10 hanky workshop, but still, feelings may be arising. This is a good thing. It all needs to be honored, remembered, and learned from properly. Some of you will keep writing, but that's okay. We are going to ring the gongs for a moment of silence. To honor all of that and just be with it. And in this space, just take a moment to be quiet with yourself, because this is your next moment to allow a word to emerge. Hold on to it for just a second or choose one. Maybe the same one, might be different. And everyone say your word now. At this point, this is not a required piece, but I invite you to do it. Usually at this point, you've gotten an aha or an insight or something, and you're dying to tell somebody. So please find someone nearby. Please be friendly to people who may have come alone. If you're with a lot of peeps and feeling really self-confident about being here with all your peeps. And if you prefer, you're like, that's not my thing, that's fine. You don't have to share. That's okay. You can just do whatever you want to do. So we'll do this for about 3 minutes each or so. So just choose someone nearby. We're not going to move around too much. And find someone to just, anything you want to share about what you've noticed, either about 2014 or anything up until now.
Yeah. Okay. So I started the year. Okay. Right. There you go. There's tissue. Like magic.
So as I went through all the months, I had a couple of, I had several like really amazing experiences where I was able to really get closer to person. Particularly my birthday, where a lot of the same people that I really sort of came to my birthday and honored me and saying how much I changed your life and all this stuff. And just like all this little things that today so roughly they didn't remember it all. It's all just and then I just became exposed to it and the philosophy in a way. So that I really got kosher on this. I realized in writing this, I really And then also, oh, so like I want to.
It's okay.
Don't worry, I'm gonna give you guys like switch sizes. For those of you who are taking turns, another minute or two before switching. Some of you seem to be kind of just talking, which is fine too.
And really got the story. And I've been manifesting a lot the last couple of months. I wanted to manifest money without money and not just money. I was working so much. I was like, what's crazy? So then I went, oh yeah,
Okay, so if you haven't switched over yet, switch over to the other person.
work on myself to get whatever it is.
Okay, another minute or two to start to wrap it up. Okay, start to come on back. Wrap it up. Okay, come on back fully. So, to wrap this up, I just want to repeat these questions and then I'm going to invite you into one last little timeline thing. What are you especially grateful for now that you've done this exercise, you've taken some notes, you've chatted with somebody? What are you especially grateful for? What do you want to honor? What do you want to put to bed with respect? What do you want to carry forward? And what did you learn? Okay. Now, imagine for a moment that you have that timeline that I talked about, the one that's got the future out there and the past out there, but just crank the whole thing 180 degrees. So you're looking at your past self, you're looking ahead at 2014 for a second. These are your past selves. Will everyone just please bow to all of them? Just hold that. Whatever difficulties they had, wherever they screwed up, wherever they triumphed beautifully, wherever they fell in love, wherever they lost, just honor them. They need it from you. And promise that you will honor them by taking forward the learnings. And now crank it 180 degrees behind. Which is not a disrespectful thing. It's just telling our brains that, oh, the past's the past. That is so useful to know sometimes. Oh, that thing is over. Oh, good to know. Yeah. It's always there for more learning. That's the nice thing about the past and having archives. You can always pull out the book out of the library and do, I seem to need to do a little bit more learning from this. Okay, so let's have a few shares. Who would like to just share something they noticed or learned or got out of that? Yes, and stand up and speak so everyone can hear. And
Yeah, thank you. I did the timeline exercise and I didn't get a whole lot of hits.
Okay.
There was something about May, and then when my partner shared what she went through, it hit me. And then just in this moment when you went through these questions, they all the answers just about
delayed response.
Yes.
Is there one that was most touching or important?
Well, there's something about me discovering in relationship that I'm totally fine by myself, that I don't need the other person to
Validate.
yes
Whatever. Fill in the blank.
make me complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. And what's interesting is somebody else may get the diametrically opposite lesson, which is fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Someone else who wants to share something. Over here?
I really was experiencing deep hopelessness last January with a deep sense of accusation towards myself of having failed because I wasn't where I wanted to be. And that was it. Yeah, you suck, you failed. And then as I went throughout the year, a lot of shifts happened to the end of the year where there was just a deep sense of love for myself. And I know there was a lot of change work throughout the year. And it was just this, my word was cuddle. It was just like, two cats together curling up. And I really felt the huge transformation of not having to sit in that place of accusation anymore, not having to tell myself I'm wrong for not being somewhere where I thought I should be. So it's
And can you respect the you in January who thought that was the best deal she could do, which was to accuse herself?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah? Yeah. And we won't accuse ourselves for accusing ourselves. Gee, how far down that line can we go? Excellent. Let's have one more. Yeah.
Well, for me, 2014 was also overall a hard year, but when I was going through the exercise, I could really see, I started seeing like each chakra and how like
Oh.
things that were happening, like which chakra was being
What an interesting approach.
affected and which was closed and which was like healing and which was opening, and I kind of like had this overview of the whole thing and like why the things that happened were needed. And then like in September, there was this shift where I was out of the chakras and more in my energy field. And so things were like shifting in the energy field, but in like the material world, nothing had changed. But somehow at that point I knew that. And then October through December, everything in the physical world started changing and at a really high speed. And so then like at the end, the word was expansion, but I also saw how everything that had happened was perfect, even though and necessary, but in the moment it had felt so terrible. So,
Yeah.
like having that perspective, I'm like really seeing how, you know, like when I can trust that it's happening for a reason and get out of like
Right. Right.
the reality.
Right,
like,
right, right, right.
it's different. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to see that, really see that as
Nicely noticed. Well done. And it offers an invitation to all of us. It's a very simple intervention, but if you can kind of get yourself there, it works. If you're in a place, in a moment where you don't have that perspective, where you can't see, in a sense, everything's all right, or it's emerging in a good way, and we can't figure out how to make ourselves believe that, right? Because whatever's going on is going on. Can we see the future you who can tell it for us? Because we don't actually have access to that information that it's all right. Only the future you knows, right? And this comes from a spiritual place of even the future you who might be having a more difficult time, it does happen, right? Still can see that you're okay in some way, yeah? So it's not about predicting a rosier future. It could be a rosier future, but we do know, you know, it does come to an end at some point for all of us, right? Okay, so that's, I mean, you're kind of stepping into the power of our future self, giving us the gifts. It's really, really powerful. Just like we just gave gifts to our past selves. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move into a break now. There's a few things I want to say before we do that, but then you're going to be on break for 15 minutes. First off, I just want to say a few things about me. This is the best time to do it. Where are you? I think it's here. So to expand just a little bit on me, I said I'm a change worker and business coach. The main thing I'm doing these days is working with alternative practitioners and coaches. I know there's a bunch of you in the room who, what I've noticed about heart-centered practitioners is they often have the impression, understandably, that they can't be themselves and in alignment and be successful in business. It tends to be a really tricky identity thing. So that's kind of the sweet spot in which I work in with people, teaching nuts and bolts, reframing business, and doing the kind of change work that I do. As well as doing more general healing work with a wide variety of people. Yesterday I was working with someone who has a singing phobia and she wants to perform, so I was working with her on that. She, not a phobia about singing, a phobia about performing, you know what I mean. Some ways to connect up more with me or find out more about what I'm doing, starting with the free stuff and going to the expensive stuff, okay? So if you want to get on my newsletter, please sign in legibly on the sign-in sheet. That's the way to start getting it. Usually send it about once a week, sometimes less. When events coming up, maybe a little bit more. Always has a nice article, lots of references. I also have a nice little video on how to manage the experience of being triggered. Wouldn't we all like to know that? But the trick is like sitting down and looking at the video when you're triggered. But if you can get that far, it's really nice. And then I offer monthly business clearing calls. So sign up on the sheet if you want more information about joining in on those.
Those are free.
Those are free. Yes, totally free, 100%. Also free for new clients only, and you know who you are. I offer free phone consultations for those of you who want to find out more, get a little bit of insight into what might be making things stuck for you. The next thing up with the big $5 is coming to Family Constellations. We almost always meet right in this room. We have them every 2 to 3 weeks. The next one is on the 18th. It's coming up really soon. And to just attend and observe and participate is $5, okay? So it's a really nice low commitment way to find out more about how I work. And it's also, there are people who just start coming, they become family constellations groupies. They just like to come and represent and be in the field, cry a little. What I always say is that you will leave with at least $5 worth of healing. Leslie's guarantee. Okay, then we move up into private sessions and constellations. I do them in Oakland or here. So if you're interested in more intensive work with me, you really got something that's got you stuck, that's something to consider. And then finally, starting up at the end of March, for those of you who are alternative practitioners and coaches who may be struggling in any way with getting your practice started, this is obviously a larger commitment, and reach out to talk to me if you're interested in participating in that. So these are some of the ways to get to know me better, and I hope I get to know you all better. Some of you I know really well, but some of you I would love to get to know better. So some of you snuck in late, so make sure you sign in. There are flyers on the back table with I have a bunch of upcoming events. The clearing calls is like, it's this week, it's the 14th. So it's on Wednesday night. The next constellation is on the 18th. It has the dates for this program. So please pick that up. A few other things I want to share before you leave. Oh yes, if you're feeling moved, you got $5 worth of healing so far. Free will offerings to help cover the rental of the space today. Just pop whatever in there feels right. And again, if you're feeling that that's not what you want to do today, that's just fine. Just pay it forward. But that's in the back as well to do that. Bathroom again is out the door and in the next room, in the next building. This is a good time to briefly chat with me if you have a quick question or a quick share you want to share with me. If you've got like a bigger thing running, you might want to wait till the end of the day, but if you have a brief question, come up and find me. And then the last thing before we go out is one of the things, if we go out, some of us like to kind of check out, like really step out, have our break. So I'm going to invite those of you who want to, when you go to the restroom, to not be in liminal space as you do it, or smoke a cigarette or whatever it is that you want to do. Then what I'm going to do is ring this bell, and either that will be a place for you to step out, and then we'll step in again when we come back. Or if you decide, I want to stay in liminal space during the break, then you can use this to decide you want to do that. So we'll just do this briefly. Yes. Oh, yes. Barbara has a little gift.
So there's a lot of you here, but I have a new whole bakery, gluten-free and largely sugar-free Austrian treats. And I'm going to put a tin can. If you have any questions about ingredients, let me know. It's all gluten-free. Dairy-free? Dairy-free as well, or some of them, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Barbara can tell you which ones.
There's water behind the curtain.
There's water behind the curtain. Yes.
Disregard.
There's just have to go around stuff. Okay, so make your choice, liminal space or non-liminal space, which is ordinary space for 15 minutes. And please come back by about 1:50, please. No, because you can't restart it. There's no pause button on the damn thing. You have to like start the whole thing all over again. Good thing to know.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody back home. Glad to have you. We're going to take a break.
Right.
He's just,
We have 9 viewers. Excellent. Please.
I've secured.
Oh, something?
Yes. Right there. Don't mind them.
Are those sweat balls?
That's hilarious. That's an old one.
It's really
Oh my
good.
God, I hadn't seen it, and then I showed it to some friends. We were watching it on Christmas Day. I was showing them. It's free to borrow. We're just laughing our heads off. It's so like bad and good. And
I know, it's just, it's fifth grade humor, but they
wow.
play it so straight, just what makes it so funny, because I mean, even the first 5 minutes before he even comes on are funny, because they're playing that NPR Kitchen Sisters thing. Good times. Yeah.
So what did she want for Christmas? Like to
Get a rat infestation out. I can't leave out cookies for Santa Claus because I have a massive rat problem.
Right. And then I'll leave out rice and water for Santa.
Out my chapstick, and then I snuck it away somewhere, which was, I did not do that. Where did I put it?
I am so glad the numbers worked out. You have a full house here.
Yeah. Hey there, hi.
I met you.
Okay.
It's like a one-day workshop with like 4 or 6 different presenters.
Oh, Dream and Grow, I remember that,
Like,
yeah.
something, yes.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah, so I was excited to do that.
Yeah. Are you in the East Bay?
Oh, yeah. In West Oakland, that's Cafe News.
You know Catherine.
Yeah, so I just, I've been curious more and more about like the consultation work for
Oh, good.
myself and clients. And so,
Oh, okay. What's your work?
Yeah, I was the first.
So I coach and teach at the school at Stanford.
Okay.
There you go.
So I interviewed like a couple of things that I've been working on is like sexism and sort of about like
Yes.
Kind of test calling it.
Oh, nice.
Asian Americans.
Right. Yeah. It's a big part of the consciousness of family constellations is there a way to feel yourself as a good daughter or a good son who belongs properly to your family and choose a different path?
Yeah.
I feel like it's always
Yeah.
finding that sweet spot of honoring myself and honoring the other.
Yeah. And what it turns out is they're actually the same set.
More research done on vaginal birth.
That the deeper thread of the ancestors want the full thriving of the descendants, right? And that it's actually built into sexual reproduction that we be different than our parents. Otherwise, clones are more efficient. Right?
You have to fight over what you
You
want
just
them to
split
do.
people in half and, right? So, and I know that this varies from culture to culture, but, I just had a long session with a young man who's African American, grew up in Alabama, and is gay. And so
This is more like
so, yeah, keep on having people with the same thing, really different cultural contexts. So do come.
I think you should go in there. I think that is a very good project.
I made a promise to myself that these next few months, after going through your thing, I was like,
Oh, yeah, this is all about, like, last year was all about, like, putting everyone else in front of me.
Oh, there you go.
and it took all that.
Right, yeah, there are phases for everything.
Allowing the joy, the pain, and the heartbreak.
Yeah.
To, like, really
It's good, it's good to read across, it's not
Right.
big.
Yeah, so I kind of made a promise I wouldn't do it. Yeah, the first couple of
Okay.
So like my own, he calls it trauma. I don't know if I love that word, but my own.
It's the N word these days.
You know,
Yeah.
It's good, I like it, but it's not,
And I think it's
like your failure is bigger.
That kind of stuff, which is like
Yeah.
and that sexy savage, I'm like, women to like,
Yeah.
really clear.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, and maybe that maybe we do that.
Yeah.
Probably
Just sign up for something for us to talk.
Yeah, so like EMDC, is family constellation enough for like a big shift to like really have a drive it and not
So
like.
here's my perspective on this, which is that there are 100 ways to skin the cat on personal change. And I can make an argument that all of them work equally well. And you want to find the one that works for you. Now, the dilemma is, does that mean I have to try them all before I know which one is the right one? And I think it's interesting what the universe lays in our path to kind of go, well, EMDR may help, but I just met this person and then I'm kind of interested in what she does. And then in the end, we just have to say this feels good enough and choose it. The other thing I do have to say is that family constellations does seem to do something that almost nothing else does. With the possible exception of stuff like shamanic journey, which there's some overlap there as well. The systemic ancestral, for me, the metaphor is you have a problem with your knee, it really hurts, you go to a practitioner, the doctor does everything with it, it doesn't get better, and then you go to a craniosacral therapist and she says, oh, you have a problem with your neck. She fixes the neck, your knee feels better. We often, go after an issue at the location of the depression or the sadness or this explicit memory of the trauma when we're located in a larger invisible system that may be stabilizing the injury in a sense, as opposed to the getting over it. Because you're the 10th woman in a row who's been raped or something, right? Which is, what are those things we kind of get over and go, that was horrible, but life goes on, versus, oh my God, it's really hard to get over it. What makes that difference? And often what we find is it's this systemic element. So, but you can find out more about that just by coming and getting a feel for it.
I went to one that my friend, I stood in, and it turned out I was her, in the end. But it was so powerful, holy shit,
Isn't that wild?
Exactly what I needed
The first
to.
time you represent, it's like, oh, I guess it's real.
Yeah.
So you're rainbow, right? Yeah. So I'll look for you on the sign-in sheet. And you can also, of course, email me whenever you want to. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, totally nice. Like, maybe that's what it's
I didn't realize.
Are you?
Really, really good interaction with my dad yesterday.
Oh my god. We're just paid less and made more to the soul. So yeah, that's good, right? Yeah.
He acknowledged something.
Yeah.
Yes, I talk to myself all the time.
I just want to let you know that I might have to step out because my husband is expecting to be closer to 2.
Okay.
And I don't know if it'll be
understand.
at 2, but
Yeah.
so just so you know, I'm not
And
leaving.
I'm doing something unheard of, which is I'm running ahead of time. Which is like,
Yeah.
that's really weird. I'm usually having to leave out exercises at the end because I can't fit in everything, so.
Yeah. Oh, good. Just so you
Yeah.
know that I'm not.
Yeah.
Which also means I will occasionally be looking at my phone for a message, but I'm not. You know, same thing. I'm not.
No worries.
Check Facebook.
Texting, this is a really boring workshop. How did I get corralled into this? Ooh, are all the sweets, are they all eaten?
Just confirming audio, video, awesome.
It says what, 9 people are viewing? 8 viewers now, 7?
Yeah, and it's all smooth.
Yeah, excellent, yay. And we had 9 there for a minute. I mean, theoretically, people can just stumble on it. It's public. They could go New Year's workshop and this will pop up.
But nice, really nice stuff.
Thank you for doing it. I really, really appreciate it. I'm gonna be ready for some dicks after this. I'm hungry. I did have breakfast. I just need a persimmon.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting a little past. They're a little mushy now. I like them when they're a little crisper.
That's not, but there's 2 different kinds, right? Some
Right, these are the appley ones,
I was
but
about to say, yeah.
even then,
You're talking about the flapper ones that are supposed to.
yeah, exactly. I just bought them. You go to the farmer. I went to the farmer's market this morning, and they just don't have any of the really. Yeah. I was driving around yesterday, and I went, magnolias and cherries are blooming.
Seriously.
Holy cow!
It always shocks me every single
Especially
year.
cherries.
I find it shocking every single year. When it says Japanese clubs. Like, hello, welcome to January. It's spring.
You didn't have that in Santa Rosa?
Oh yeah, it's just every January my entire life. It shocks me.
Oh, that's odd. I mean, it shocks me because I grew up on the East Coast, and it's shocking. It just is.
It's not drear and cold. And
It seems a little early to me.
Yeah.
it is actually. It is. Things because of when the rain, you got the rain. Things went early.
I think when I was a kid it was February, or maybe in Santa Rosa it was February. Ever since I started noticing
What are
it has shocked me.
the little things that look like daffodils?
You mean
Because they've been.
narcissus, the all white ones?
No, they're even smaller. No, they're like narcissus. No, not crocuses. They're like narcissus, but they're not narcissus. Anyway, they were blooming 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. The
So
ones that look like teeny weeny with clusters.
Yeah.
Like teeny weeny.
Yeah,
petals.
yeah.
The little yellow centers.
Yep.
I call those narcissus. I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure
what the
they
real
are.
name
Yeah.
is.
As people are gathering, I'm just going to pass these around. Flyers for upcoming events. But let me just take it. Yeah, you're going to write the extra realize I was going to take half.
Oh, got it.
Sorry, I was not. Just pass them around. And I'm also going to pass around the clipboard for you to sign in your emails. So just, it'll go this side and then back down this side in a perfect world. And you don't have to, although if you want to, in order to encourage your seatmate to do it, a little bit of psychology there. But no, if you're already on, you by no means have to do it. But if you are new to my email list, please, and you really want to be on the email list, then please do it legibly, because I can't tell you how often I start to input and it bounces because I can't read it. Okay. Let people see. You don't have to stop talking yet. You can talk amongst yourselves.
Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sitting outside. What we're doing?
Email next to your name if you want to be on the email list. You don't have to if you don't need that, but if you want to keep up to date on events. I have no idea. I know that you signed up on Facebook, which is probably where you saw this announcement.
Yeah, and then the guy wanted the garage part too, so he got even more money. Yeah, so he's gonna be able to pay off all his debts in no time. Yay. Are we still talking amongst ourselves?
Yeah.
To ourselves.
I will send nasty looks, although it will come to a close soon. Just give you fair warning.
No, I'm just leaving early for college. So the one I've been about is This one in like, old trucks and vehicles. There's like, I don't know, there was an article in Oakland magazine about this surgeons of fancy and bikes. Yeah, I got that. That's a good article.
Okay, we will begin to gather again. Okay, let's get started.
That whole conversation. Broadcast. Don't feel self-conscious or anything. I was gonna tell you, but Henry, I should be able to figure that out.
What's what?
Next Sunday.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't talk about something more intimate.
Oh, that's here.
Yes. Okay, my friends, let us regather. So for those of you who intentionally left the liminal space, we are going to re-enter it together. And for those of you who didn't leave, this will just be an opportunity to re-enter. And those of you who left by mistake, oops, I think I left. I meant to stay, but so we're going to do this. And again, if it's your thing, hook up with divinity in any way that you do that. Notice with curiosity and without judgment what your experience is right now. We've done some work together looking at 2014. That's brought up some feelings and some thoughts. And now we're after the break. Just notice what you're experiencing right now. As we get into, we'll be in a moment contemplating 2015. In this in-between space, allow a word to emerge from your heart or choose one, either way. And say your word now.
Alignment.
Just want to check in. How are people doing? Ready for the second half? Yeah. I am noticing there's a little bit more like wrapping shawls and getting socks. Are we getting cold? Okay, the one who's really nodding her head, you have a thermostat on your right, up ahead a little bit. If you can just push the temperature up a little bit higher until we hear it goes. There we go. Excellent. Well done. Give her a round of applause. This is our workshop engineer. Excellent. Okay. Otherwise, how are people doing? Yeah, found the bathroom. Took care of that. We had some yummies. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much. Excellent. Had some chat with some people, or you just spent a little time alone? Taking care of yourself. Okay. 2014, how's 2014 feeling?
Educational.
Educational? It was like one of those long educational films that we had to watch in 5th grade. Back when they had Sprocket, you know. Okay. No. Educational, good way. Okay. These are not the exact same questions, obviously. I haven't come up with questions for 2015, but there's a version of each of these for going forward too, right? What are you hoping for? What learnings do you want to bring into it so it's what you'd like it to be like? Yeah, but imagine yourself in 2016 for a moment. What will you be sitting there learning about your 2015? Okay, so this is another timeline. Did it stay on? Is it still, you're happy, Kitty? Okay, good. Kitty in the warm spot. Let us know if it goes off. I mean, it probably needs to go off on occasion. But we don't want us to get cold. I should have noticed it during the break. This is a different kind of a timeline. And this is when you're mostly going to be doing internally. I have to move this for a second because I need to draw another picture, different picture. So once again, let's imagine we've got a camera coming down the top of your head, okay? Please look up and to your right. So if I was standing right here, it's kind of up there for me. Okay. NLP, and for those of you who do know NLP, I confess myself right now, I'm about to speak a little reductionistically, but it's useful for the purposes of this workshop to speak simply about this. This is the direction our brain accesses to think about the future. Again, this is a gross generalization, but if I were to ask you to tell me what your house looked like when you were around 5 years old, you'd probably do a little look up and to the left, and then you'd say it was a brown house with green trim. Okay? You wouldn't even notice that you'd done it. If I said, what would you like your dream house to look like? You did a little look up to the right, and you say, I'd like to be near a creek, and I'd like to be Tudor. Yeah? Whatever. So we're not so much going to be interested in the past. We're looking at the future. So this is a different kind of a timeline. Right here is now. And this is a little bit in the future. That's a little bit more in the future. It's a little bit more in the future. More in the future, yeah. Timeline going out. People have really different timelines. For some of us, if I go this far out, it's like 3 years away. And for other people, that's like the next 30 seconds. Yeah. So people have really different timelines. So wherever you place the stuff, like at some point I'm going to have you looking at December 2015. Some of you may have that about 5 feet out, and some of you may have it half a mile out through the walls, right over there somewhere. That's fine. So just notice your timeline for a moment. And this is really important. You don't move your head. Just move your eyeballs. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. Just look up and to the right and notice your future. Okay, so we're going to be working with that. So what you want to do is you're going to just paste, just like someone comes along and December 31st, 2015, takes an iPhone picture of you, prints it out on a printer and sticks it up on the wall. Just stick and imagine a picture of you. Basically, you're out. You can give it as much detail as you want. Doesn't matter. Now, some of you in the room may be now saying what a certain percentage of people in a room this size will say, which is, I'm no good at visualizing things. Okay, I don't visualize. That's not what I do. I'm about to prove everybody wrong in the room. Imagine an orange marker. Everybody in the room just did that. This is called mind control. You know, I mean, something happened when I asked you to do that, right? Like, don't think of a pink elephant, and instantly, huh? So there's some kind of visual processing that's actually going on. So for those of you who are absolutely convinced that you don't do visual stuff, just pretend you do for the purposes of this workshop, okay? Because all of us are doing it all the time. We kind of, even blind people apparently do this stuff. So it's really interesting. It seems to be kind of fundamentally part of the brain. Okay, so we're going to start doing this timeline. And again, some of you will like to do this with your eyes open. Some of you will like to do this with your eyes closed. All that's important is that your eye be comfortably, you don't need to jack it up into the right-hand corner of your eyeball, but it's comfortably somewhere up and to the right. That's just really helps your brain with what we're about to do. So please just either close your eyes or leave your eyes open. It doesn't matter. Look up and to the right. And notice that picture of you that you just pasted up there. That's December 31st, 2015. Now, notice all of the U's between now and that future date. We do know there's an infinity of them, right? For every moment, there's a U. We just notice there's January U's and February ones and et cetera, et cetera. And then just look at that December one and notice how he or she looks, how that one appears, just your impression of that one out there. Do understand we're just making this up. Please do not misunderstand this as prophesying. It's just, we're just playing with this. And now, allowing all of the parts that know how to do this, close your eyes if you have not done it yet, and associate into that December you, fingers in that one's fingers, toes in that one's toes, float out of yourself and into him or her. Breathe with that one's lungs. Feel that one's heart beating in your chest. Just slip on in there like you're slipping into a suit of clothes. Slip into that future December self. And as you slip into your December 2015 self, what do you begin to notice? What does it feel like? Without judgment, just curiosity. What's it feel like in there? Breathe inside of him or her. Now, still inside of that December 2015 you, turn around and look at your past self, sitting in Berkeley on January 11th, 2015. The December 2015 you is looking at their past self, which we do all the time. It's called remembering. Yeah? So just look at yourself. And also look at all of the other past selves in between. The February one, the March one, all the way up to the November one. And all the ones in between that too. Just look at those past selves who are past from the point of view of this December 2015 you. What do you notice as you look at your past year, 2015? What do you appreciate the most? And some of you are going to get really concrete things, and some of you will just get impressions. Either are fine. What surprises you when you look back at it? What might have been tricky? Just notice those past yous without judging what comes up. And I want you to spend just a little while here being inside the skin of your December 2015 self. Learning from 2015. And if you're curious, you may just slip into, July 2015 self, or March, just slip into these future selves. And if you moved around at all, go back to December 2015. Slip into him or her. As you look at the you who's in this room on January 11th, 2015, can you look at him or her with great respect and affection? Can you see how he or she was the necessary past for you to be experiencing what you are experiencing in December 2015? Look on the January one kindly, and perhaps give that one your blessing from the present you's future. And whatever seems useful about this experience, including the kindliness and learning, gently return, slip out of the December you into the present you, who's looking up and to the right at his or her future you. And receive your future self's blessing. And breathe for a moment with that. Letting go the future timeline, just be here. What are you experiencing right now, here, without judgment? Allow a word to emerge from your heart or choose one. And let's say it now. I invite you, if you want, to take a few minutes to write. Minutes. And then I'm going to give you about 5-7 minutes. Invite you to find the same person, unless that person's left, in which case you'll have to find a different person. Or if that person is like, I don't want to share anymore, which is fine. This is all optional. So just share what you noticed about 2015. And by the way, this is not the last visit to 2015. So we'll be coming back.
Yeah, I have the image yeah. Like, so, but it's there was that. I don't actually, yeah. Yeah, I'm just like, it might not just figuring out into other things, and so I bring myself back to it. Yeah. But basically what I was, that the hardest time at the end last year, when I left her really felt really easy to so hard in order to recreate they're not meant to like remember that whenever there's some experience that remember and I kind of started doing that. I have the the word titration and now like helping myself grow the way when you're doing chemistry, like one drop at a time, just so that you reach the point of like, yeah, exactly. Like keep working with that, and then breathe is kind of now like instead of like meaningful, like saying gestures. Oh, good. I love boys. Because even more opportunities like this, healthy. So, you know, if you're too much of a pain in the ass, you're going to be my next boy, so be careful. You know what I mean? So now, like, people are like acting great. You know, like I might be some wobbly now when we transition to childcare. I just made that connection to the boyfriend story that not eating. Then it doesn't show up. A lot more often. It's just the other thing I got from you.
Okay, the first person begin to wrap up. If you haven't switched yet, start to move on to the other one in a moment. So if you haven't changed roles yet, make sure you start hearing from the other person.
Like right now, I was sort of the same right
Okay, start to wrap up. Okay, let's come back. Okie dokies. I want to check in. Who ended up with the clipboard? Just keep moving that around. The clipboard with a sign-in sheet. Because it was going to go that way and then this way. So it didn't come back this way. That was going back this way. There we go. And again, you don't have to put down your email if that's one of your commitments for 2015 is less email. Certainly one of mine. Actually, I did a wonderful event with Jonathan about a month ago, and I won the guy who's going to fix my email. It was like the best prize ever. There were people doing like, you know, coaching and massage and singing, and I'm like, I want my email fixed. Okay, so I did overhear something over here that I wanted to, just nothing private, don't worry. But I heard Mary say, I felt like I was putting in what I wanted.
Well, yes.
Obviously, part of what I'm up to with this particular exercise is holding off on asking for what we want, even though we're going to get there, but to allow 2015 to kind of instruct us or teach us in some way. But if what you're noticing are desires, please note this. Yeah? This is the really important business. Now, as I've noticed a long time ago, you know, back when I was a little bit more serious about my Christian practice than I am now, there was a saying of St. Ignatius, which I always liked, which is that God's will for us is planted in the deepest desires of the heart. Who in the room did not get that version of Christianity growing up?
Say it again slower.
God's will for us is planted in the deepest desires of our heart. The discernment process is what's the deepest bit. So I really want the third piece of chocolate. The third piece of chocolate cake, right? I really want that, so God must want it for me. And I really want it. And then there's another deeper level of desire that's like, you know what, but there's this other thing I want too. So the discernment is between the levels and layers of desire and becoming familiar with the different kinds of desire that we have, right? But this is just all to say that all the deep traditions, the mystical traditions of every single religion respects and actually raises to a very high level the role of longing and desire as a way to discern and seek guidance. So I just kind of want to confirm noticing what you want. And what can be so useful is being surprised sometimes. Oh, I didn't know I wanted that. Ooh, I thought I wanted that, but it turned out not so much. That kind of thing, yeah. Or I wanted it, but it's a slightly different flavor or version. than I was envisioning of it. And that always feels good when we find those. Those always, I don't know who it was, but in the words, one person said alignment, which is one of my favorite words. When we discern that, we come more in alignment. That's what it feels like. So sharing, let's have a couple of shares. Yes.
So when I was going through 2014, I noticed that the most difficult experiences I had that year brought me the deepest, most meaningful lessons. So if I take that going forward into 2015, whenever there is a difficult challenge in front of me, I can say, oh, goody, I'm going to get a really good lesson out of this and be happy about it. In a similar way that I was sharing with my partner that I had a reframe last year where whenever one of my clients starts to be too much trouble, I used to be fearful of losing that money, but now I think, oh, good, are you going to be my next void? Because I love voids, because then awesome people come in, because now I'm really clear about who my ideal client is. And that's who's coming in now. So whenever I have a void, an awesome client comes in. So if somebody's acting too difficult, I think, oh, good, are you going to be my next void?
Yeah.
And then they fall into line really fast because they sense that I don't need them.
Yeah.
And so similarly, when a problem comes my way this year, I will be excited about it because there'll be a deep lesson in it for me that will move my life forward.
Excellent. Thank you. And I invite you to consider, this may not be your shtick, but I suspect it's the shtick of at least a couple people in the room. Wouldn't it be nice if we got such strong lessons from stuff that felt easy and good?
Yeah.
Learning the easy way. So if that feels like a fit as well. Because a lot of us are patterned to do our biggest learning when things are at their hardest. And there's a certain satisfaction in that experience. We're strong, we're courageous, we're resilient, which is all really, really good. And for some of us, it is not safe or okay for it to be easy. Right? So.
But there's something in when we're in a lot of pain.
Oh, yeah.
That we become motivated to let go of a lot.
They're catalysts.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Excellent. Somebody else. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lupita. 2014 for me was a kind of rough year, but I learned a lot. I deal a lot with the professional part, and what I learned is to probably if I will have the tools that I have now, I will suffer less. And my goal for this year is my resolution is be happy no matter what. And I want to continue working and getting these tools to be happy no matter the world is falling apart.
Excellent. And I want to invite us into what does it mean to be okay even if there's something appropriate to be pretty sad about, right? So we want the full range of human emotion. Our kitty dies. I don't want to be happy. I want to be sad, right? So, yeah, what is it like to be okay, even if it's kind of not okay, or
It's a choice.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody else, one more. Because one of the things in the Bay Area is like only to kind of like be into positive emotions, and you're not okay for not having a positive emotion. Yeah. What hand went up? Yeah.
I had trouble slipping into Future Lori, December 2015 Lori, but when I did, I caught the edge of her laughing, she's cracking up. I decided to interpret that as 2015 will allow me to let go of some of the perfectionism that I tend to cling to, because she's having such a good time, she doesn't care.
Awesome. Someone sent excuse me, I'm about to say a bad word. People who don't like this, put your fingers in your ears. But it was an article that went around about the sort of the skill of not giving a fuck. Okay. And what you should properly give a fuck about, and what you should not give a fuck about. And that the happiness in life is about getting that straight. which I thought was pretty good. And the whole thing was filled with the F word. I mean, it was like 3 every sentence. I think that's why he liked writing the article. Let's have one more. Yeah.
So, my 2014, most of my adult life, I have been estranged from my immediate family. With some trying to introduce it, every 3 or 4 years. And in 2014, I was reunited with my family in a very different way, where things were discussed that had always been swept under the rug, and a lot of yolks were broken. And I just feel really, 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 really good about it this time. So, I see myself in 2015. Believing in love and connection, accepting it and embracing it, not only with my family, but with friends and with intimate relationships, and because obviously being estranged has blocked all of that. So, yeah, I'm just optimistic about this new life and seeing how it benefits me.
Woohoo! That's a really big deal. The Bay Area is filled with people who specifically are leaving their families to find their real family. Which is that's mostly a really positive movement. And there's a way in which there's a separation move there that isn't workable over the long haul. And how to stay connected to families that may be crazy or abusive is a bit of a trick. This is part of what the Family Constellations point of view really helps out with. Because it's not like you want to go to Thanksgiving dinner with people who are just going to be crazy, right? So yay, lovely.
Of that, just sitting in on your constellation scroll for the year helps me tremendously.
Yeah. One of my groupies. $5 worth of healing? Money back guaranteed, right? No, I keep it. Okay, so some of you who know me well know that I am kind of notorious for squishing too much into workshops and then needing to cut stuff out. I'm doing the unbelievable, which is the opposite. So I've been sitting during the break kind of thinking, okay, there's more space here than I thought there was going to be. So I've come up with some extra things to serve this process. And now what we're going to do as a result of that is we're going to step explicitly into family constellation space. Which we've actually been doing because it's all about stepping into, that future you is a representation in your system that you stepped into and got information from. If you do family constellations, we could have put a card and said, December 2015, you put it down on there and you could have stepped into it. And that would have looked more explicitly like a family constellation. But again, because of space, and we would have done that again if there were 20 of you in the room. But so this one again is going to be, this is something I do a lot with people who are on my telecalls. So I do these constellation teleseries, which there's at least a few of you in the room who've done them. And obviously, if I'm going to do constellations work over the phone with a group, I need to figure out, again, a different way than the classic form, for those of you who've ever seen the classic form, which is a group process. And this is what we're going to do. Again, it's going to be all internal, but we're going to engage ancestral stuff. Okay? So what I'm going to invite you to do, to start out with, is once more, I'll just ring the bell so we can enter into a meditative space. Whatever you do, find your breath, find your center. Most of you will close your eyes for this. And begin by, I'm just going to ask you a few questions to elicit some feelings and states for yourself. The first one is, please just notice right now the very best about you and your life. the stuff you're most easily grateful for about yourself and your life, the stuff it is easiest to imagine happening in the future, all the warm fuzzies about who you are now and who you are becoming. You may not be it yet in actual historical fact, but you know it's on the way, or you're pretty sure anyway. And as you step into that or notice that part of who you are, please feel it as a body state, as a collection of emotions and physical sensations. What Eugene Gendlin calls a felt state. And you can kind of move the content out, the specific people or events or behaviors that are part of this, until you can just feel this good feeling state inside of yourself. Where is it mostly located in your body? If you were to label it with an emotion or a couple of emotions names, how would you label it? And with total respect, please bookmark this. And put it aside. You can always come back to it. Take a moment, think about what you had for breakfast. In NLP, that's called a break state. And now we're going to do the same thing, but with a different context. So again, find yourself centered, find your breath, be with yourself. And with great tenderness and respect, will you please notice what is most unwanted about your experience right now? And what you most doubt will ever happen even though you want it to. And there could be in there a couple of juicy self-accusations. Mostly we want to load this up as a feeling, just like we did the other one. What does this feel like in your body? Where in your body? And if you could label it with a couple, one or two emotion words, what would you call this state? Allow the content to go away and just feel the state, the feeling, the felt sense. With curiosity and a lot of tenderness with yourself about that. And bookmark that. And then once more, step out of that. Ugh, you might want to do a little again with respect, you know? We have these feelings and states for what your unconscious mind considers a very good reason. And therefore it's a very good reason. Probably has something to do with survival or belonging. Okay. So now we got an A and a B in a sense. We got the good juicy feelings, whatever you ended up calling those, and then we've got another set of feelings. Okay? Yeah? Once more, please close your eyes. And the parts of you that know how to do this, allow both feelings just to kind of come to your awareness. Whatever way you know how to do that. Because notice, you're kind of dealing with both of these all the time. They're always there. One may be in the ascendancy and the other one in the, descent, but they're both always there. Now, please notice as you're having these really long-standing states, these are probably highly valued states, as they're called technically. Please notice that you are in the field of your ancestors. In this context, for those of you who have adoptive or step families, we honor adopted or step families completely, but we are focused on biological families because it is from them from whom we got our lives. And some of you may not have met your biological families, or there are parts of your biological families you've never met. Don't sweat that too much. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, all of them are with you. They're supporting you. They're part of your field. You carry them with you all the time. This is your tribe. We forget this in the Western world, particularly here in the United States, because we're an immigrant country. We pride ourselves in being away from all that and not needing it. Some of our ancestors were taken from their lands. That makes it even more difficult. Some of us are from this place. Our ancestors are from this place, but had it taken from them. That's extremely difficult too. All these separations, but the ancestors are with us. So imagine in front of you a set of bleachers, huge set of bleachers. And on the bottom of the bleachers are your parents. And behind them are your grandparents. And then 8, and 16, and 32, and 64. That's why we needed a big set of bleachers. It gets wide so fast. In about 10 rows, you have over 1,000 people in a line. Notice the happy ones and the sad ones. Again, you don't know most of these people, but just allow the field to allow them to be manifested to you. An impression of the happy ones and the sad ones, the rich ones, the poor ones, the wise ones and the fools, the sinners and the saints. We all got them all. And from them, we've received our life. If we notice one about 4 or 5 rows back who's especially unlikable and difficult and dangerous, and we said, let's replace that one with someone who we like better, we immediately disappear. So notice each one needs to be there for you to be here now. And we're glad you're here now. And they're chiming in from the next room. Now, I'm going to presuppose something as you stay inside of that meditative space looking at the bleachers. And I'm going to simplify things a lot. But there's one ancestor back there, and I want you to look past your grandparents into the lines of bleachers of people you can't put names and biographies to. There's one of them back there who's mostly connected to the super good feelings you had, the confidence, the ways you like yourself, the ways you feel life is unfolding just the way it should. And there's another one who's mostly connected, probably because they had an extremely difficult experience of their lives, who's mostly connected to the more difficult experience, more difficult feelings that you have so frequently about yourself and your world. So just allow the field to identify those two. Don't worry about getting it right. This is a mass hallucination. We're working with the unconscious. It works with metaphor and symbol. Just allow it to emerge. Two ancestors to step down from the bleachers. One mostly connected with the unwanted feelings, and one mostly connected with the yummier feelings. Now, I want you to watch those two face each other. One of them we will call kind of the resourceful ancestor, the one who fuels your good feeling, that connection to that resourceful ancestor. And the other one is the suffering ancestor. We'll just give them those labels. It's simplistic, but we'll just label them that way. They face each other. And imagine that they embrace and bless each other without judgment, with gratitude for sending life on to the next generations, eventually coming to you. Because if they had not endured whatever they endured, you wouldn't be here. Sometimes we're a little inclined to judge them. It's totally understandable. We do get it. We all have some difficult ancestors. We just notice how they belong to each other in the ways that they do. And then they turn and they face you. And there's a few ritual words here in your mind I invite you to see if you can say to these two. The first one is thank you for my life. Again, these are people you may or may not like if you went to a cocktail party with them. It's not relevant. Just thank them for your life. These are very formal words. I honor the dignity of your fates. Please bless me as I move into a new year. And bow your head slightly and imagine the resourceful ancestor, the one that's kind of sourcing the confident, easy, good feelings about yourself, reaches out his or her hands, puts their hands on your head and blesses you. And just soak that in. You're much smaller than they are. Gosh, they precede you by so much. For those of you who are parents in the room, you can do this to your own children, but we receive this from our predecessors. Just receive this. And then that one puts his or her hands down, and you look at the one who you've been a bit entangled with their suffering out of love to belong. And Remember what you asked for. Please bless me as I move forward into this new year. Bow your head. And the one who had the difficult time also reaches out and says, of course, please have it better than I did. Please. And places his or her hands on your head. And then that one's hands drop, and just look at these two ancestors who are equal in dignity. One of them may have had it easier. One of them may have had it harder, but they are equal in dignity in your family tree. You are glad you have them both. And you might imagine you turn around 180 degrees, and these two place their hands together on your back to support you as you move into a new year. And please allow one thing from the things you're noticing that you want for 2015 to somehow symbolically be represented in front of you as those two ancestors support you in facing that direction, the direction of life, your life, which is the proper direction for us all to face. And you might imagine the back of your chair is kind of their hands, and just feel that they give you a loving, kind, but authoritative little shove. But they don't get disconnected. They go with you where you go. And you take a step forward. Stay in that space until it feels complete enough, and come back to ordinary consciousness. And notice that you bring the ancestors with you. You may not be aware of them most of the time, but that field is always there. So for those of you who like to write, just take a second. This is one of those exercises that just kind of sitting in the space is not a bad thing to do for a minute or two, to just soak in that feeling. For those of you for whom it went well, I do want to acknowledge that occasionally people run into funny ancestral things, even in these most generic of meditations. So if something a little glitchy showed up, that's okay too. I just want to acknowledge it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It just means something in your family showed up. Everybody in this room has a complicated family. And then in a slightly gentler way, in a kind of, quiet kind of a way, just a couple of minutes, if you want, share with the person that you shared with before. This is very sacred space, so just hold that as you have the conversation. Down? Tess, is the heat still on? Could someone just turn it off for a moment? Some people are getting a little hot. Can you just turn it down a little bit? Can the engineer turn that off? Yeah, just a little bit. Just make it the temperature a little lower and it'll pop off.
In order for me to find the answers there. The negative feeling is this thing that I
I knew some people would be like, I really want to tell somebody what I just experienced, and other would be like, I just want to hang out in the space of it.
Totally, sometimes it's like, yeah.
And that answer is quite close.
For some people, the experience isn't quite complete until they've given a little sense of what they experienced. We get to see it just a little bit. But going into that space is like going to the church. Or like what church should be.
Yeah, exactly. Best week I've ever had quite some time ago. In a church. Walking down the center aisle. Basically like everything was like it was fully received. It was not filter. It was just like joyful.
Awesome.
It was still so
yeah. Nice. Lovely.
I was like, just more Catholic girls.
It's interesting. Me and my sister are going down to Mexico in a few weeks, which has a really, it'll be there for Carnival. So all the Roman Catholic stuff will be going on, but southern Mexico especially still has its indigenous practices in there. So it's going to be really gorgeous.
I just need to go find myself showing your socks.
There's this thing called Amazon. I think that may be the only place you'll find them. Yeah. I think I got them at a Kmart about 10 years ago. You're rocking them, girl. You are rocking your socks. Okay, switch sides if you haven't switched turns yet, please. The nice thing is about having goals like that is like they're totally achievable. Well, and I took this course once where he talked about how momentum is, you need to get momentum in a sense of life. And sometimes it's more momentum in some areas than in others, and the way to get momentum is what he calls small successes. And counting them as small successes. So, and then he gave the example of, I've gotten into the shower, it's today's small success.
So it's kind of like
Am I what? North of New York City. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, Cornell? Okay. I went to Cornell. Yeah. Where it's cold and snowy right now, I assume. February in Ithaca was always required a great deal of endurance. Going between classes. Okay, start to wrap it up. Okay, come on back to the room.
answers from my ancestors about that. I'll take that.
Are we all good? We explicitly did some ancestral work? Yay! Is anyone like, I know you just broke open my world and now I can't function? Just want to make sure. Because it can have that effect. It can be a little destabilizing. That's what we do with bodies at Family Constellation. So if we were to do that formally, we'd have a representative for you, we'd have a representative for the two ancestors, et cetera, et cetera. So, and if you still can't imagine what that looks like, that's fine. Just come on and experience it for yourself. Someone was sharing a dream with me and it made me remember my dream from last night, which I'm sure has something to do with this workshop, and I'm just going to share it. I was in a rundown motel. We've all been in one of those. I think attending a conference or something. And I noticed that in the door, there was a part of the door that was like broken through, like maybe someone in anger had kicked out the bottom. It was all kind of scratchy and everything. I'm like, huh, that's not good. But it's small. I mean, what can I do about it? And then, of course, the dream shifted as dreams do. And now it was this big hole. And bad people started coming through the hole to come, even though I'd put like dressers up against it, they started coming through. It's quite a scary dream. And so I thought, okay, I woke up and I went, what's coming through? It's the threshold already. Thresholds are usually really nice and everything. Remember the days when they told us to stand in thresholds for earthquakes? It's not true anymore.
Really?
No, because things can get underneath something sturdy. No thresholds, because things can come down and poke you and stuff. Yeah, get under a table or a bed or something like that. But this is a if you think in mythology, there are lots of different kinds of openings and entryways, and some of them are really scary, right? You know, every once in a while you have those science fiction ones where you get sucked into them, right? It's the black hole thing. So it just had me kind of thinking about moving through spaces. Years and years and years and years ago, I did a sermon. You've all perhaps heard, because it's a common verse of I don't have the path of life is through the narrow door, right? Which sounds like no fun. That sounds like crappy, right? But then I remember when I was a little kid and I loved hiding in closets and laundry baskets and how we liked small spaces when we were kids. The original small space, of course, right? So anyway, these are just some metaphors and some things for you to think about when it comes to thresholds and moving through. And of course, the original one is the, coming into the world thing. So any shares from that, one or two from that? If anyone, I know that's very tender, sacred space, but sometimes people, there's no reason that we can't share it. It's only if it doesn't feel that you want to share it. Anyone want to share anything you noticed about that experience? Not required, but just invited if there was anybody. Okay, we'll let that be then.
Well, I want to say something.
Catherine wants to say something.
And kind of on
Please stand
behalf-
up so everyone can hear.
Kind of on behalf of folks that haven't done any constellation stuff, is that like I used to get really cranky if I couldn't like see an ancestor and what's I order bleachers. I don't go to games and like, I don't know these people. They're all dead.
That's right. I forgot Catherine has given me this talk before.
Yeah. Say it again. So just like for me, what's helpful is really just finding that really like non-linear, non-conscious part of my brain where I just see bleachers. I kind of understand where they are now, and just see lights. I just like literally, it's just like, oh, there's a brighter light over there. My attention's over there. Oh, there's on this side. There's like a darker light. These are the folks.
Yeah.
And it's that simple.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not like searching for people or names or any story or any semblance of rational, conscious thought around it. And
yeah.
Just if anyone started
Yeah.
with that,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I should sit down and interview all the people I've done bleachers meditations with and see find out what they're actually doing when I'm instructing them on these things. So it'd be very interesting. By the way, the bleachers image is, I want to attribute that to my teacher, Carl Buchheit. He came up with that. But I use it in a pretty different context here. So just.
How about an amphitheater?
Well, the only reason why, an amphitheater, but tiered rows of some sort or another, baseball park, whatever you need. But the reason for it is just to get that tiering, because the ones who are further back are understood as being bigger in the system. Yeah. So that's the reason for all that. You can make clouds or a mountainside that goes up. Yeah.
When you say bigger, just because, do you
Yeah.
mean like in some way have more importance?
Not
bigger
importance. They have a seniority.
Seniority. Okay.
And mostly because life flows down from them to us and not the other way around. Right? So we're always bigger than our children, and our grandparents are always bigger than us.
Yeah.
If someday you are changing your mother's diapers because she's incontinent and she's got Alzheimer's in a nursing home, so you're helping her, you're taking care of her, she's still functionally senior to you in the system. And it makes a big difference when we're doing that for our parents when they're elderly, if we can hold that in some way, that we always received life from them. Yeah. Bert Hellinger has a wonderful line, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of family constellations because I could certainly do that. But he has a lovely line which is sort of diagnoses the problem many of us are having in our lives, which is to be big in the world, we need to be small in our families. But of course, literally for many of us, it was not safe to be small, or if we had the impression of that, or we had a parent we felt we had a rescue, or something along those lines. There's lots of ways in which this shows up. Sometimes we're the younger child of an older, sick sibling. We have to grow up a little bit too fast, that kind of thing. And so recovering it being okay to be smaller than those so that we can be big in our lives is one of the big movements in family constellations. So if you imagine those two ancestors behind you being very big and you're small and you're receiving to move towards what you want in your life in a really big way, but in a properly, not in a, you need to step into your bigness kind of way, but like just at your proper dignity and size for who you are, and the expertise that you bring, and the passion that you bring, and the age that you are, and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask
yeah.
a question? So I was having this connection to like an Irish ancestor, and I'm sure there's almost all of us can connect to our ancestors who've been through some sort of genocide, horrible thing, right? So I was
They tend to resonate very strongly in our fields, yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking about like a woman who went through the Irish potato famine and watched many relatives and friends starve.
Yeah.
You know, and that just really hit me
Yeah.
really hard. And I
Yeah.
feel there's some connection to fear of getting close to people or making people important to me because they all died.
Okay.
You know, there's something there.
So I'm going to say a couple more words, just other people may have run into this. We conventionally talk about inheriting things from our ancestors. Hair color, I've got my dad's anger, whatever, that kind of thing. In the family constellation context, we do not inherit this stuff. In love, we reach out and participate. So we feel the incomplete suffering of those who went before us. We feel, in a sense, a bit of survivor guilt. And we, the classic one, my apologies, I just used this, but because it's actually going to be true for some people in the room, but you'll have your own version of this if you don't. The grandchildren of Holocaust survivors who cannot be happy until their grandparents did not die in the concentration camps, which is never going to happen, right? Yeah. But it's a gesture of love. And it feels like a betrayal to thrive. It feels bad. And so we'll say, I'll take on the suffering. My great-grandmother suffered, and by the way, any of you Irish folks, it's not acknowledged in our culture. It is a Holocaust, what happened to the Irish folk back then. Absolutely a genocide, has very strong resonances in the American culture. it was terrible for them. How can I be happy and dance, right? So the solution is, everybody, I honor the dignity of your fate. And notice that they endured and they sent down life. When we do family constellations, what we often discover is that our ancestors are cranky about being seen as victims by us. See my strength. And you're like, okay, I had it wrong, sorry. Right?
They survived.
They survived, or they survived long enough to have a baby. Right? And for the ones on the sides who didn't survive long enough to have babies, they still have dignity. You know, like the parents of a child who dies a few days after being born see the dignity of that child, right? Yeah. So, thank you for my life. I honor the dignity of your fate. Please bless me as I live my life. Okay? And we want to feel the dead behind us and be facing towards life. Most of us from time to time are like, we've got our eye on the dead. I don't know why my life won't work. Right? Because it is fascinating and it's heartbreaking and it makes us feel very loving. So we want to feel reassured that we are loving when we receive from them and we move towards our lives. So thank you. That's the reframe. Okay? Your Irish ancestors are fantastic. And it was sad. Yeah? We all have ancestors that are like, oh, they rock. They are awesome. And for some of them, they had some really difficult, I mean, everybody in the room, we go far enough back, there's always going to be some heartbreak. Yeah? Yeah? And pitying our ancestors does not help us very much. Next time. Little one, I love you. Next time. Okay. So that was like a mini class on family constellations. And it is a little bit of a black hole because once I get into this topic, there's like all these little tendrils, but we are going to resist that. Okay. So I would like you to reconnect with those resources you just felt supporting you. I literally often tell clients for whom this is a very new concept, when you lean into a couch or a chair, imagine that these are the legs of the ones behind us. Some of us need to kind of do a little bit of a thing around our parents because we actually have histories with them. It can sometimes take a little time to work out. But nonetheless, just feel that behind you. And now at this point, what I'm going to invite you to do is notice your desires for 2015 and beyond, because obviously 2015, it's the beginning of the rest of your life. Notice your desires, and with some respect for how we look through a glass darkly now, we don't know everything about everything that we want. And there can be really interesting surprises along the way that shift our course in ways that will be interesting. Noticing your desires, could you choose a few things you would like? And not at the level of, I will make this happen, damn it. But I would like this, and I would like the support of the ancestors and of the universe and grace, along with my own full-hearted commitment. And again, I want you to hold this very lightly. No force, no push. Force and push tend to be very, very antithetical to having desires manifest. We actually really want to more fall into our surrender into our desires, right? Yes, and bring action to it, but it's like, oh, I'm so glad I'm doing this kind of action. So just formally choose a few of those things. Out of everything you've learned over the course of the day. And I hope at least one of those 2 or 3 or 4 surprises you a little bit. Like when you came in here at 12, you didn't know you kind of wanted that. And look up and to the right at that December 2015 you. And now instead of taking a picture, I want you to custom design him or her, having had those things you're formally choosing for. Look at the you who experienced it. In any way in which it turned out differently, he or she is glad for it. Now, for some of you, this is going to be happening super duper easily, which is nice. We've really prepared the way to make this easy. A couple of you may be having a little static. That's okay. Just notice those ancestors supporting you, especially the suffering one. That should help clear up a little bit of the static. Because the static is mostly about you asking yourself, am I being loyal to these suffering ones if I have what I want? So just notice that, just lean up against them. Notice that, you belong automatically and they're okay. And just see this December 2015 you. And close your eyes, slip into him or her. Fingers in her fingers, toes in her toes. Breathe with that one's lungs. Feel that one's heart beating in your chest. Please don't worry about the content. What does it feel like there? Having had that 2015. In any way in which your desires have been fulfilled, you're really super glad and happy and grateful for that. And in any way it turned out differently, you're like, oh, well, that was okay. Yeah. Look back at January 2015 you and bow to him or her. All of the intentions that January 2015 version of you set these intentions. And then once again, come back to now, slip into yourself, looking at your future self. Notice you're both supported by the ancestors, because the ancestors transcend space and time. And then just come back to here and now one more time. If you need to make a note about that, do that. And then for the rest of you, please return to basically the first thing I asked you to do. The conscious top 3 things of 2014, the conscious top negative experiences or regrets of 2014, the top 3 desires of 2015, the top 3 things you'd prefer not to experience in 2015, and just return to it and adjust, don't adjust, play, write in the margins. Just bring your conscious desires at 12 noon into connection with all of the unconscious work we've done for the last few hours. Just allow them to make friends. Now, some of you are going to look at what you started with and you're going to go, oh my God, I don't want that. And just start over. That's not likely. We're not usually that disconnected from our heart's desires. Or it may be, oh, I had it on the nose when I showed up at 12 noon. Probably not, also not that, given where we've been today a little bit. I promised in my publicity that this would not be a planning workshop. However, a lot of these workshops are about planning, these New Year's workshops, that's what they promise you. So this is my version of it. And hopefully for those of you who do like more formal planning, because for some of you that's a really supportive process, this will be a nice foundation for the more specific planning you like to do in your work life and relational life, whatever it is that you like to do around that. I'm of the philosophy, never do less planning than you need and never do more. Yeah, right. As we all know, under planning is problematic. Over planning is just wasted time. Okay, so one last visit to a timeline. I think I've said that 3 times, so I think this is the last one. Remember the one we did in the very beginning, where you had the past behind you and the future ahead of you, okay? And I go straight through the middle of you. So just reconnect with that one, with the one right behind you, the one right ahead of you. Can you please notice the you out in front of you who's December 2015? Then notice a you out there who's way further out. Far enough out that it isn't anything you would probably think about planning. At least not too much. You know, at least a decade or 2, something like that. And then further out, can you see the you, and this is going to be way out there for all of you, the one who is on his or her deathbed. Just recently saw a quotation, I want to be living when I die. It's a very nice quotation, D.W. Winnicott. And then for those of you who have this metaphysics, will you notice the you, the soul, the spirit, the whatever thing that lives beyond that. Whatever you like to call that. Who looks back on this life and goes, that was interesting. Not sure what I was thinking at the time, but okay. In heaven, in between lives, whatever metaphor of the afterlife you like. Or if there's just an energy of you that continues. For those of you who are atheists, then you can see, you know, the dirt you will become, and that will become a tree. Yeah, just notice that out there. And then behind you, January 2014 you, who we've gotten some relationship with. And then, of course, go back further. Please include the little kid version of you. There's a little kid version of you who was having a super hard time. There's a little kid version of you who was like going, yes, life, excellent. Some version of that. For me, it was usually when I was climbing a tree. And then the version of you earlier who's just like the sperm and egg are just meeting. And then, again, whatever your metaphysics is, whatever you were before that. Now, at this point, I hope you're being properly impressed by yourself. It is. It's astonishing, isn't it, to be alive? It's quite a remarkable thing. It is so painful, and it is so beautiful, and it is so wonderful. It's quite an astonishing thing. Now, look at the past selves, look at the future selves, and get an impression of the affection and respect that all of you have for each other. Especially for the younger selves, who that's the trickiest bit, usually. Not always, but usually. The future selves. That rapport with selves across time. Just notice you're all on the same side. That what is good for one of you is good for all of you. And that you cannot actually choose against yourself. We make regrettable choices, we do understand, but it's like always engaging the best we have at the time. Imagine what it would be like for none of you to judge each other. So from this, and each one has the ancestors, by the way, particularly those two you especially notice. Notice them all along the way. I'm going to move into a space here. Stay inside of there. Notice what you're experiencing right now with the ancestors' presence, with the imagined rapport between all of yourselves. Allow a word to emerge in your heart, or choose a word. And say that now.
Trust.
And come on back. So I'd be curious for a few shares, and what I'm going to shape this share a little bit differently, which is what are your takeaways? We're going to start wrapping up a little slowly, but nonetheless wrapping up. What's your main 1 or 2 takeaways? Would love to hear from 2 or 3 of you about that. Yes.
I'm really feeling an integration with the, I can call it the shadow ancestor, where it's just like completely reframed. Yeah, I'll just maybe say that, but I'm like, oh, and a little bit ago I laughed because I got her, she was like, well, you just come on. So that feels like a real linchpin.
Thank you.
In terms of my,
Thank you.
cosmos here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you don't have to tell what it is, but is there a story that goes along with that, like a specific history, or was it more general?
No, there is.
But she had specific history, yeah.
Sort of in between.
In between.
In between, not
Okay.
like very detailed, but enough like context, place, some
Okay.
details that I feel like I understand where she is in
Okay.
the timeline of my own.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, in the back. Miriam, stand on up, please.
Usually when I look ahead at anything, even just a task that I have to do for this day, it seems overwhelming. And this, in terms of looking in terms where I want to be, which was really quite tangible, or at least physical changes, I really felt like just a much more looking forward, a steadiness and an ease.
Excellent. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Lovely. Takeaways. Yeah.
I realized that one of my big growths for 2015 is to feel more supported and appreciated, to actually receive that. And I got that in one of our earlier things. And then in this final one, really going backwards in time and allowing my little one and the infant and to feel the support of those 2 ancestors. That was quite phenomenal. I could have sat there for 15 minutes easily, just letting that integrate.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that, Beth. It's something I actually do pretty frequently with people. Those of you who know the NLP jargon of re-imprinting, which is to give younger selves a different impression of what might have been the meaning of what was happening at the time. And one meaning that a lot of us had as children, understandably, is that we're on our own, or I can't lean on my parents, or I'm all alone, or some version of that. So what I'll often end up doing is first eliciting this experience of the ancestral field in the here and now, and then asking, does this transcend space and time? And they go, of course. Well, then did she have it, or did he have it? And something really shifts. So thank you for naming that. It's something you can do if the future one has that support and the present one has the support, then actually it was there. We do understand it was not available to conscious noticing, yeah, but it was there. Okay, another takeaway. And by the way, these are all things you can do on your own. Yep. Another takeaway. These are so short, we can do a bunch of them. It would be really nice to hear a bunch of them in the room. Yeah.
I'm not remembering exactly what it was that you said, but something around that really resonated, but I don't remember in verbatim, was how the past wants me to be happy now. Like for me, the younger me wants me to be happy now. Like what, can you just remind me of that?
Sure. So just remember what it was like to be a little kid and wanting to be happier someday. Yeah? I mean, as a little kid, we're not going, wow, I hope it's even worse. So this is happier than it gets to be down there. Like, I mean, in really demented situations, we can go there, but that's a pretty extreme life situation. Usually we're coming up with fantasies of how I'm somehow going to make it better. I don't know how I'm going to make it better, but I'm going to make it better somehow. And we have such a strong memory. I mean, this is the imprint thing. We have such a strong memory of how bad it was that we never kind of informed that aspect of our consciousness, which we can just call the inner child or the younger version of ourselves. We've never informed them it got better.
Right.
Yeah, so they could go, yes, woohoo, I'm going to have a much better life, right? Because if we could have gone back to the 2 or 4-year-old and said, you know what, he's so much happier in a few years, would it have made it better for him or her? Yeah. Just by the way, another thing that an aspect of our consciousness, if we had a significantly difficult moment in childhood, either perceived or real, that we weren't going to survive this, parents fighting, a parent hitting us, things like this, it's very useful to inform that aspect of our consciousness, our younger self, that you're going to make it, guaranteed you have another, 30, 40, 50 years. Because there's some part of us that's stuck in the fight-flight of, I may die any moment. And it needs the update on, oh, I'm going to survive it, did survive it, guaranteed. So it's connected to that. Is that helpful? Okay, yeah.
Does that relate in any way to, there was that part of me when you said go to your future self and then you're telling me back to the present. I was like, I'm gonna stay out there because that person's got figured out already. You know, another given.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's like something along these lines too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to whatever degree we can create, so the family constellations context, if you've imagined a future thing, again, I wish I had cards. I left my cards at home because I didn't want to be tempted to use them. But if I put a card down that says December 2015, and I've imbued it with a lot of positive qualities, yeah, it becomes a real element in my system. As real as the other people in the room, as real as my ideas and thoughts, yeah? It becomes actually, it's got its own energetic force. We can't, it's like, think of a pink elephant. You can't uninclude that now. So it's gonna affect everything. So, in that sense, yeah, when we step into our future self and let our past selves, which is our now self, our present self, no, it's gonna be okay. Something in us can just relax. Huh? You can have 20 different explanations for the mechanics of that. Whether you think we just actually had the future reassure us, literally, that's fine. Whether you think we just tricked our brain to let go, I'm fine with either one of those explanations. I just know it makes a difference for people. Yeah, yeah.
I think for me it was
Just stand up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think for me it was just a reminder for like what I feel like this year is about, in comparison to last year being a lot about me or for others, you know, and this year about being like present with myself and self-care. It was sort of like, how do I stay present in the now when there's that target that wants to be there already?
Yeah.
And so I think that was the piece that I was like struggling with.
Okay.
And also knowing that like it was really important to have the experience of like trust and knowing that it's going to be okay.
Right. So as much as we in our pill-popping culture have the impression we would like something to happen now, like I want to get over this pain now, I want to learn this thing now. If I could take the learn how to speak French pill, I would take it, whatever it is. There's actually, there's something actually about our psyche which demonstrably likes learning, likes that it takes time, and likes to be able to look back and say, I did that. Yeah? Rather than, I mean, you know, there are people who say that all you have to do is imagine it and you can step into it. Let's imagine for a moment they're absolutely right about that. We don't seem to do it very much. So, and I like to think that the big learnings of my life, I like to look back and say, wow, I learned that, I did that, I created that, I built that. It's something we seem to like as humans. One of the reasons why we like to be parents, along with a lot of other reasons. Yeah. Yeah. Takeaways or other questions. Questions are fine as well. Yes.
I have kind of an ill-formed thought that I want to share. Kind of a reminder, always useful to be remembering that our ancestors are supporting us, that they want us to succeed. And for me, the challenge often is experiencing a lot of recent grief. And it's that that dance we feel between respecting that I have grief for family members recently passed, but not staying and facing it like I face it. I listen to the music that has me feel that, like, I'll just swim in it to feel my love, which is part of grief.
Yes.
But with the awareness that I can also change the station, that it would be useful to change the station and to feel the love from a different perspective, to actually turn towards life after experiencing my love in experiencing grief and staying there and staying there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
If
that makes sense.
Yeah. And what I know about grief and mourning more comes from my pastoral background. And it's one of those things we can't take a pill for. We have to do it. It's work, and it's necessary and dignified work. And it's always a question, when is too much is too much? When are we caught in it? You know, I mean, I think in psychology, is it called complicated grieving? Is that what it's called? I love the term, complicated grieving. And at what point, we do understand that there's a gray area in there about all that. And that's why I kind of come back to this and the rituals. We don't have good rituals for this stuff. And by rituals, it's not just me coming up with a feather and a candle and a something, but rituals we hold in common, which are what make rituals powerful. It doesn't mean a ritual you do by yourself isn't powerful, but there's a resonance and there's a healing power when we're all engaged together in something that shares at least some symbols, some metaphors, some actions. And so when it comes to grieving in particular, if we don't have communities to do it with, we're a little stuck. It's kind of tricky business. So all I can say is, and in our society, and we're getting over this, we've got hospice, which is a wonderful movement. And we have lots of palliative care. There's a lot going on in our culture that's changing this for the better, but we're still not there yet. But imagine if you lost the love of your life and then like a day later, you didn't feel bad about it anymore. You would feel guilty. You'd feel bad. That's one of the reasons why it's hard to stop grieving, because we feel guilty about moving on. So at any rate, not an answer to that at all. But when we're really grieving, and the deal is if we don't find some way to do it, it's just gonna keep happening. We can't actually do an end run around this. There's just no way to go around it. So for those of us who don't have spiritual communities in which to do this with, and you're really dealing with a grief thing, call out your friends and say, I got to do some intentional grieving with you. Would you be willing to do this with me? Because I need someone to do this with. Yes, you didn't know these people. That's fine. It's not necessary to know anybody. There's my favorite show of all time is Northern Exposure. I think you can see this one on YouTube. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous episode in which Joel's Uncle Manny, who was very important to him, I think the reason why he became a doctor, dies. And so he has to get a minion. He has to find 10 Jews in Alaska who can say Kaddish with him, which is the obligation that he has. And so there's this lumberjack, and there's these different people, there's this Native American who had converted to Judaism. It's a typically Alaskan motley crew, and it's not working. He can't find the tent. And then in the end, he just gathers the town together in their little building that they have all their meetings in. And he puts on the shawl. I actually get tears now because it's one of the moments when TV, the fourth wall drops, and the people sitting at home in their living rooms start to pray. He starts to pray the Kaddish. And it's an extraordinarily strong moment. So, Catherine, if you can find that, I would recommend it.
I've seen it. I just love that. I haven't seen it in a decade or so, but I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a memorable. The other one is where they dance on Rose's future grave, which is really quite a remarkable scene as well. Other shares. And here we are, we're bringing up life, right? That's all this is about. I mean, New Year's visioning and clearing workshop. And it's your life. It's our life, yeah?
So I appreciate
stand
that. Oh, I appreciate that we brought the emotion into it for how we feel in that future self. And hi, Rainbow. I was just thinking that we can feel that way now. We can elicit those feelings either by thinking about how it's going to feel then, or doing something else that makes us feel joyful. Because I have to remember that life is about the path. There'll always be goals that I have. There'll always be expansion that I want to have. There's always going to be something I want and desire. And if I base my happiness on, well, I'm going to wait till I get there before I'm happy, then I'll spend my whole life being frustrated and angstful, waiting for this thing. So the whatever, is that a word?
Angstful.
So the art is to find the joy in each moment of the journey. Like road trip, like life is a road trip. Get some snacks, get some cool friends, and go on the road trip together,
Okay, thank you. And one of the insights of NLP, by the way, is in order to make goals really happen for yourself, you need to feel it. You need to be able to elicit the feeling state for the brain to get on board with the goal. Okay, so just for what it's, and a lot of neuroscience backs that up. Okay, so I want to wrap this up. We're going to do this last short meditation together. And for those of you who have been writing down or remembering your words, if you had more than one, if you had one, that's fine. This time, instead of saying just the word of the moment, I want you to say all the words. Okay? And remember as many as you can. It's fine. If you come up with new ones, no one will slap your wrist. It's fine. So I'll wait until people stop moving their pieces of paper, and we can do this together. One more time, just hook up with divinity in any way that you do that. Turn your attention to your heart. And remember the words. And please say them now.
Manifesting, closure,
And in a moment, I'm going to ring the bell again. And at that moment, we leave liminal space together. We will be reconnecting with ordinary time. It is useful to do this intentionally. with full respect with everyone that you did this with. And if you have an authentic gratitude that you have for anything that you received during this time, just in your heart, share that with the universe. Just a little thank you. And with that, I want to thank you all for coming. Again, leave your email if you want to stay connected. Free will offering in the back if you would like to put that there before you go. Please hang out just 1 minute, because there's one thing I want to do right at the end. It'll be done in 30 seconds, I promise, but I want you all to just receive something. If you want to stay out, I do have the room for a little while. If you have more of a conversation or something came up, just check in with me, or if you have a question. So, as I said, I'm a pastor, so I have a Celtic blessing for you all. I've rewritten it a little bit, so it's a little bit more Bay Area friendly. But I would like to bless you on your way out. And many of you will know these words. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may the divine oneness hold you in the palm of her hand. Amen. Amen. Please have a wonderful 2015.
Thank you.
Everyone say goodbye to the people who are watching. Bye. And yes, you can stop the broadcast and turn it all off.